Hi guys, welcome back. It's LSP. It's currently the 29th of May 2021. Welcome back for this week's trading analysis for the DAO. My name is LSP and I'm one of the analysts who do the token squad analysis for the Wealth app through the DAO. Obviously you guys are familiar with this by now, but for anybody that isn't familiar with this, the DAO is part of Swissborg, and what the DAO does is excuse me, we promote ideas, we share ideas, there's missions that we do, to bring awareness to Swissborg, to bring the community together, to offer value to the community, and to help people who are new to the crypto space, and do our best to educate people as, they're navigating their way through this space. The token analysis is done by 5 analysts, and we kind of cycle through the tokens that are available in the Wealth app. This week for me it's Comp, AAVE and UTK. So I've already done the analysis, as again you guys are probably aware by now, but I like to do, or I also do a video with that analysis, going into a little bit more depth, because it's easier to point at things on the chart and so on. I do the video in English for the tokens that I'm doing for the week, and CryptoPointFR does them in French for the tokens that he's doing for the week, and we cycle through, so we make sure that all of the tokens are covered throughout each week and month. So with that said, I'm going to crack on and first do compound, and we'll take a look at what we're seeing so far. Now I'm going to preface the video by saying, and I've done this twice now, since the sell-off, I also do other videos for my YouTube channel, so I've already said this quite a few times. Since the market sell-off, in the last sort of 2 weeks, we've seen a lot of downward momentum, and then we had this acceleration. And what this does is it causes a lot of problems when you're doing technical analysis, because when you look at the crypto space in general, generally most people who are trading cryptocurrencies just buy. If you look at the ratio between buys and sells, or longs and shorts, generally people are buying and holding for quite some time. Okay, that's the idea. That is presented and pushed, in the cryptocurrency space. That doesn't mean it's the right thing or the wrong thing to do, but what I'm saying is, with the idea that most people are buying to hold for a long period of time, the ebbs and flows that you see on the chart, so for example with Comp, and you see this, consolidation up here, and then it starts to drive low, and then accelerates, and comes all the way down here. Look at the distance that we've traveled so far. Okay, we've gone from roughly around about when the acceleration started, 675 or so, and then we accelerated all the way down to around about 265. Okay, what that does is, if you're a holder, if you are just, I'm buying to hold for a long period of time, then you buy, for argument's sake, compound now at this price. What happens is, if there's any more downside, you're going to sit through all of that before you even get back to break even. And then you're going to have to wait for price to continue going higher, and this can take a long time now. A lot of people have got their eyes fixed on Bitcoin, because they believe that if Bitcoin starts to run higher, everything else is going to follow suit, and that's not always the case. But because people are looking at Bitcoin, it's a challenge. It's a challenge because nobody wants to put their money into the market right now, because there's a lot of fear that is running rampant in the cryptocurrency markets. So the way that I like to look at things, and then when I'm doing analysis, there are key levels. For me, it's always confirmation. I want to see confirmation that Comp, for example, because we're doing the analysis on compound, gets through certain levels, and when it does, it gives me confidence to believe and to see and to know that price is probably going to start running at that point, or at least it's cleared one level, and we're probably going into another range. So right now we're ranging between roughly 270 to around about, say, 450. Okay. And this is quite a broad range, and we could stay here for quite some time, going sideways. So instead of saying, okay, I'm just going to buy compound because it looks pretty cheap relative to what it was, close to 915, now it's down here, I'm just going to buy it because it's cheap. I like to look at the key levels where I say, right, price doesn't really matter at the minute. What I want to see is confirmation that Comp is going to keep going higher, right? Or at least it's going to shift from where it's sitting right now, and that the momentum is going to shift from nothing to, okay, now we're we've got this upward momentum, this catalyst has just happened and price is starting to run higher. That is this level here, yeah, around about 470 to, yeah, let's call it 540, 470 to 540. If price does not get through this and it bounces into it and moves away and bounces into it and moves away, we are staying below this level for quite some time. Yeah, we need to see compound above this level. We need to see it here. If it gets here, it's going to create another range that it may stay in, but it will clear all of the liquidity that's below, and it means that anything it's picked up here, any buy liquidity that was picked up here, is going to be dealt off in this area because there's an imbalance here. Yeah, and once all of that corrects itself, it does what it needs to do. It rebalances. It gives it a much stronger conviction in terms of liquidity in the way that the buys and sells and flows are, to start to run higher, you know, and get through this. It will get through this much easier if it does that. If it starts to drive lower first and it takes out this low and starts to dip into this over here, that's worse. Yeah, because it just means that we've got so much more to get through before compound starts to even get anywhere near this level again. Okay, and that's not something that I want to see. It's not something any of us really want to see, because it just means that the broader markets are all going to be doing kind of the same thing. So with compound, and you'll notice I haven't gone to the weekly. The weekly is in the analysis that I've typed up, and all I was saying that this level here, okay, so between sort of 430 and 550, this area right here is pretty much lined up nicely. So this is why I didn't bother going into the weekly for now, but it's the same thing. It needs to get back above this, but you can see this huge sell-off. It's going to take time for the market to work this off, you know. So that's compound. So we'll jump over to AAVE. Excuse me. And what's interesting with AAVE is slightly different, and I am going to go to the weekly to show you this, and I made a reference to this in the actual typed analysis. It's very, very important. This candle right here, okay, you'll notice price ran up. This is after the sell-off, obviously. We've got a pretty decent sell-off. But you'll notice it's in a range, yeah. So it wasn't all the way up here, so it was grinding up, little pullback, and then it continued going higher, higher, and then it sold off. It's in a much larger range already, so it's already messy. So this sell-off really is just going to the bottom end of a consolidator, you know, consolidating range, yeah. And that was simply just to pick up any liquidity or any stops that were remaining under here. It's gone straight through those, and here's the interesting part. And why AAVE is slightly different, or in fact quite different from most of the tokens that we're seeing in the wealth app. You see this really strong drive higher, okay, and it goes into this area, which I'll show you on the daily in a second, and it's just rejected immediately. Yeah, so think about what that's doing. We've gone all the way up, immediate rejection, okay, and now we're just sat quite a tight range. Yeah, so anything that's up here, you have to look at it as price ran up, picked up sell liquidity, and then just moved very, very quickly away from that level because it wants to do something with that, right? You know, price is picking up sell liquidity because it wants to continue going lower. If it didn't, it may, for example, have stayed a nice strong up candle, and then maybe next week we grind a little bit and whatever. We're not seeing that at all. We're just seeing instant rejection. And when we go to the daily, we can see how that shows up. Yeah, price goes up, hits this level, okay, doesn't even, and this is a very important note to make. It didn't absorb deeper into this liquidity pool. If you notice, this is the full liquidity pool, okay, from here to here, and it just tapped it ever so slightly and then just moved away very sharply. Yeah, it wasn't, it tapped and then ground a little bit, didn't really do much, and then slowly starts to drift lower. It hit it and then just bang, bang, and now we're currently sitting right here. If price does not run deeper into this, okay, and hold within this area, okay, we are coming down, in my opinion and belief, to 146 to around about 200. Yeah, this range down here, this is a very large liquidity pool, and if price eventually does come down to this level, then that would be a good spot, you know, to start paying attention, in my opinion. Now, obviously, the analysis that we do is for education. We're not here to tell anybody what to put their money into, or to, you know, it's never been like that, and it will never be like that. We give our analysis based on our experiences and what we see in the markets over the years that we've been, investing and trading and everything else. And in my opinion, and my experience with reading price and understanding the way flows are, we have a situation on AAVE where price could quite easily run into this a little bit deeper, move away, run into this a little bit deeper, move away, run into this a little bit deeper, move away. Okay, and obviously, one, that's going to take quite a long time. Okay, and two, if it continues to do that, we are more likely to see this, because it will run, pick up, sell liquidity and start to drive lower, run, pick up, sell liquidity and start to drive lower, and this will be the area of dealing off. This is where it will do all of its facilitation of trade. This is where it will do all of its pairing. This is where it will deal off the liquidity that it's just picked up from this large area up here. Again, if you're a holder, we don't want to see things like that. Okay, it's much better for AAVE to just rip, clean all of this out, have one last dip, and then off it goes again. And again, unfortunately, all eyes are on Bitcoin, because a lot of the market believes that if Bitcoin starts to run high and we get a nice little pop on Bitcoin, everything else is going to follow suit, which unfortunately does seem to be the case right now. But I think AAVE is slightly different because it's already shown rejection prior, and it's already been in quite a large range before the sell-off even happened in the first place. So let's go over to UTK. Where are we? A bit higher up. So with UTrust, very messy up here. Let's go over to the weekly, and I've said this a few times, when I was typing up the analysis for the weekly as well, I did mention this. This wick causes a lot of problems. And this is why I do prefer to do the videos, because it just allows me to move price all the way across, so we can have a proper look at what the weekly actually looks like. And we're seeing the same thing, a bit of rejection up here. We've got such a horrible range up here to get through, and this is super messy. So going back to the daily, because the weekly is not giving us anything to work with in terms of actual ranges, they're just too large. You see that the lowest point that we have is around about 14 cents. Okay, that's very low. Okay, very low. But relative to UTK, with the price that it's been to and its range, it's not too bad. But having this insane move all the way up here, you see both wicks. Okay, you can see price went up, rejected, price went up, rejected. And it's interesting to note, right, that the second time price went up there, it took out this high and then rejected, but didn't take out the all-time highs. Okay, which means it wasn't ready, one, to take out all-time highs, and two, it was going to go lower. At this point, if you were watching price at this point, okay, a lot of people may very well have been jumping into UTK because they believed it was going to be breaking out, okay, but it didn't, and you would have seen the slowdown on a lower time frame, maybe a 15-minute or a 5-minute chart, possibly even a 1-minute chart. You can see the slowdown as it's happening, and then it accelerates to the downside. It leaves this insane wick behind, and then obviously stabilizes down here in this range down here. Now I'm not expecting much more downside on UTK, but because of this horrible mess, it just means that it's going to be much harder now for UTK to get back above this unless a catalyst hits the market and it really pushes UTrust, which unfortunately is just one of those things we're going to have to wait for. But the levels down here are quite good. I would want to see, and I didn't do this in the analysis, but I'll just show you quickly now. I would want to see price stabilize in this area, and we'll make this a different color. We'll just make it green. I would want to see price stabilize in this area now, okay? So this is kind of the stair step back up. If price stabilizes here and it starts to run higher, it will hit this, and we're stuck between these two fractals now. Price needs to, I'm trying to think the best way to say this so I'm not confusing anybody. We've got a low down here. Price runs away from that low, and now it's doing that first initial pullback and potential rally. Okay, so this is the range, okay, that UTrust is stuck in, right? So we have a brick wall here and we have a brick wall here. Okay, one of these two walls is going to get traded through. I would prefer it to be this one, because if it gets through this, obviously it can start to eat into all of these imbalances in these wicks. If not, then we're likely to see much more sideways action, consolidation, and it's going to be quite messy on UTrust because of all of this. All right, so we'll have to wait and see if a catalyst hits the market. or when a catalyst hits the market. If it does, great. We can always assess these, these ideas. But for now, that's pretty much the analysis. And as always, guys, I really hope you guys are enjoying the analysis that we do for the DAO, on the tokens for the, within the Swissborg app. And I hope everyone's having an awesome weekend. And I look forward to seeing you guys in all the various places that I am. Take care, and I will speak to you soon.